Now that Season 2 of Castlevania Nocturne has ended, it is time to talk about the best villain that this show has produced. While both Erzsebet and Drolta are the main villains, whose actions shape much of the story, Drolta comes out on top, not just because of her actions, but also her backstory, which this season has shown us. Her transformation from a devoted priestess of Sekhmet into a bloodthirsty, fanatical servant makes her a multi-layered villain that this show desperately needed. Erzsebet, in contrast, is more of a straightforward, power-hungry villain, whose actions are driven by a desire for power and sadistic enjoyment. While Erzsebet serves her purpose as the figurehead before she dies in the last 2 episodes, it is Drolta's character and motivations that make her a better, more engaging villain in this show. Originally the High Priestess of Sekhmet, Drolta was a compassionate and empathetic figure, dedicated to serving her goddess and healing the sick in ancient Egypt.
Healing and justice to your people. Give me the strength to serve them. Drink it all up and get lots of sleep.
She displayed profound humanity in her interactions with others, even shedding tears for the fallen priestesses and common worshippers at the temple. When her temple is raided and the body of Sekhmet is stolen, Drolta attempts to protect her goddess's remains but is overpowered. In the wake of this failure, she is presented with an opportunity for vengeance in the form of a vampire, whom she kills and then drinks the blood of, sealing her own fate. Her decision to become a vampire is driven by a mix of desperation and an intense desire to regain what was lost. She believes that the power of vampirism will allow her to find and restore Sekhmet, an act that she sees as her sacred duty. However, this transformation marks the beginning of her obsessive, fanatical quest for Sekhmet's resurrection, and she grows increasingly ruthless in her pursuit. Drolta's descent into being a villain is caused by her unyielding devotion to a goddess she believes has been wronged.
Show me how to be stronger. I pray to be made stronger. And she sent you. Come, Sekhmet. Come, ceaseless night. Can you feel her? Can you feel the goddess in you?
She is not a mere psychopath or sadist, but rather a deeply devoted individual whose fanaticism eventually warps her into a monstrous version of her former self. Her initial compassion and empathy are buried under layers of violence and cruelty, which makes her fall from grace more impactful. She is a tragic figure, not because of her vampiric nature, but because of the distortion of her once virtuous goals. Erzsebet, on the other hand, is a much more straightforward character. She's depicted as a sadistic vampire queen who delights in the suffering of others, particularly in the capture and torture of young children. Her motivations, while undeniably cruel, are more self-serving. Erzsebet is an embodiment of a typical villain, powerful, ruthless, and driven by a need for control and domination. Her past, which includes her infamous crimes as the Countess of Hungary, paints her as a purely malicious figure. Drolta, however, sees potential in Erzsebet beyond her depravity.
Countess Erzsebet Battery. Heard you committed many terrible crimes, Countess. Which makes you perfect. I'm here to make you a god. Sekhmet. Goddess of war, strengthened by tasting your holy blood.
When she encounters Erzsebet in the year 1614, she recognizes in the Countess a worthy vessel for Sekhmet's power. Drolta doesn't simply seek to use Erzsebet as a tool, she views her as an instrument to revive the goddess she serves, and she invests time and effort into turning Erzsebet into a vampire. The bond between them is not one of mere loyalty to a master, but one of necessity and a shared vision. However, Drolta's eventual betrayal of Erzsebet after the latter's defeat reveals her true feelings. To Drolta, Erzsebet is a stepping stone, an expendable pawn, whose usefulness ends once Sekhmet's essence has been absorbed. Drolta's devotion to her goddess supersedes any empathy for the individuals she manipulates. What ultimately makes Drolta a more compelling villain than Erzsebet is the way her story finishes. After absorbing Sekhmet's essence and being confronted by Annette, who is possessed by the real goddess, Drolta experiences deep emotional turmoil.
I wandered the earth for 1,000 years seeking a vessel. You are not Sekhmet. You are nothing. It's always belonged to me. I am Sekhmet. I did this for you. All of this. I thought it was what you wanted. I thought it was what you wanted.
Sekhmet condemns her for the atrocities she has committed over the centuries, and Drolta's response is one of pain and desperation. She defends her actions, explaining that everything she did was in service of the goddess, whom she believed wanted to be revived. This internal conflict adds a great layer of complexity to her character, which was much needed in a villain for this series. Her journey from compassionate priestess to bloodthirsty vampire is a tragic tale of idealism gone awry. Drolta's fanatical devotion to Sekhmet, her manipulation of Erzsebet, and her eventual fall into despair and rage all contribute to a tragic, multifaceted character whose villainy is the result of misplaced loyalty and a distorted sense of purpose. In contrast, Erzsebet remains a more one-dimensional villain, driven primarily by selfishness and a lust for power. It is Drolta's complexity, emotional depth, and tragic backstory that elevates this season to another level.